Family features on Film Threat. Hey friends, welcome to the Film Threat Review podcast review show. I'm trying to refrain from calling it a podcast, but who knows? I've got with me. I'm Alan Ng. I'm the managing editor of Film Threat, and we're going to talk a couple films in the family genre. And I'm here joined by Bobby LePire. Hold on, where are you? There you are. Hey, Bobby.
Hi, guys. How are you?
We've got these glitches.
Is there a delay on your end, or?
No, I added you, and then it just took a while for you to finally come on. But are you? Yeah.
As soon as you said, "Here I am on my end," I was right there. So I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're here, and we're going to talk. We got three films
somewhere at least.
Today.
We're somewhere at least.
Yeah. Yeah. We're talking cross country, so maybe that's what the delay is. Let's see. So we've got three films we're going to talk about. This is the family feature time, and these three films are one's on VOD, one's on Netflix, and the other's coming to Disney Plus. Actually, it'll probably be there already. But let's just go down the list here. We're going to talk about Max Winslow, and I was going to call it the Chamber of Secrets, but it's the it's the House of Secrets. Chris recently interviewed the director on the podcast, and Bobby, you actually saw the movie.
Yeah, I reviewed it for Film Threat.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about it and what you thought about it.
The plot centers on a group of half a dozen or so high school students who get chosen by a sort of Elon Musk type character played by Chad Michael Murray to go and spend a night in his house. And once at the house, they have to do a series of games, and whoever wins, whoever has the most points at the end of the night wins, and it's like $2 million, and they get the house itself. But then things start going badly. The AI controlling the house and the games starts messing up, and things get like deadly serious for these teenagers. And without giving too much away, I feel that's a pretty decent summary of the plot.
Yeah. So I think when Chris talked to the director, the idea is that these challenges, I suppose, have to deal with some of the fears that each of the individual characters have. Can you elaborate on it without spoiling?
Yeah. I should definitely mention that. So they're all high school kids, and each aspect of it involves in some way one of their deepest, darkest secrets or fears, or a combination thereof. They don't know it's tailored to them until X amount of time, and it's about how they need to learn to work together or talk it out, or anything like that to overcome these issues that they're having.
Yeah, so you gave it a 9 out of 10. What is it that got that 9?
It's kind of everything. I would say more the reason it's not quite perfect is some of the comedy doesn't 100% work. A little trying too hard at moments. But quite frankly, I don't know what the budget for the movie was. But the director, Sean Olsen, he makes it a remarkable looking film. There's like 500 or 600 visual effects shots in the film, and they look really impressive. The CGI and the practical work are great. The production and set design of the house itself is really great. Just from a visual standpoint, the movie is jaw-dropping to look at, and I guarantee you, whatever the budget was, it looks 10 times that on screen.
Yeah.
The budget's great. I also really love that it's a sort of technology gone awry thriller in the vein of things like Antitrust or The Net, if anybody remembers those movies, but for like a whole family. And instead of dumbing things down to make it so it's so safe and sanitized that anybody, a 5-year-old, could watch it or whatever, It's actually like kind of scary and creepy at moments. It works.
Yeah.
And in my review, I think I say something like, it the filmmakers know that the Grimm's fairy tales were written to scare kids, and they follow in those footsteps.
Yeah. You know, I mean, even Walt Disney early on knew that scaring kids and scaring audiences were important. I mean, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs has some pretty scary moments in it.
We tend to forget this, at least in this
you've
country,
got to hit the range of emotion.
Yeah. We tend to forget this in this country, but Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs wasn't made for children. It was made for families, sure, but it wasn't made for children. And we always think of animated movies as being for children, but that's not accurate. So he wanted to make something anybody could watch, but he knew that in order to do that, you had to keep it creepy. You had to make the stakes feel realistic. And Sean Olsen and his whole team, the acting, the crew, all of them, they make those stakes for those characters feel very realistic. You're invested. You want them to survive. You want them to overcome whatever particular issue is being mounted to them at that moment.
Yeah, and sometimes you need life lessons kind of scared into you, I guess.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we're moving on next. This one's on Netflix. This is See You Yesterday. And so what we have here, whoops, I'm sorry. What we have here is two teens, CJ and Sebastian. This is CJ in the picture. And we start off by them testing out a time travel device that they created. And without spoiling it, these two kids are time traveling, and there's an amazing cameo that I don't want to spoil at this point. Yeah. And they do it, and you know, this is what I find as the perfect blending of contemporary culture, even contemporary events, and then adding a sci-fi layer onto it. You know, there's you know, later on, the CJ, her brother, is killed in an act of police brutality, but more murder. And she wants to go back in time to basically fix it. And I just found that this film, you know, it's what you want in sci-fi. There's a high level of sci-fi themes going on. This idea of going back in time and changing the past, and the ramifications of that. It spins out of control in both kind of a narrative and a sci-fi narrative as well. What did you think, Bobby?
I really enjoyed the film. The director, and I'm not sure if he also wrote the movie or not, or Stefan Bristol.
Yeah, he did
some really interesting camera movements for when they show back up either to the past that they're time traveling to, or back to their present. Really weird, disorienting angles to put you in the kid's headspace, because they're disoriented. They don't always know exactly which time they're in and stuff. And I thought it was really enjoyable and intense. And without spoiling anything, the ending is perfect. The final shot in this movie is amazing. And I love that you can kind of take it a few different ways, like in a more like downbeat manner or in a more triumphant manner. And I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a smart film. It is a very smart film, you know, and you know, one of the things is, this is for those of you who are short filmmakers. I saw the original short film that this is based on. I believe it was at San Diego Film Festival, and you know, if you want to get a bigger project done, you create a little short to kind of give a flavor and an idea. It's like a pilot of what your film wants to be, and you know, this is an example of it. The opening moments are pretty much what the short had, and then they just layered it on from there and made a full, complete narrative out of it. I thought that was pretty amazing. Okay, anything to add?
I was going to bring up, I thought the person playing CJ and the person playing Sebastian did excellent together. Like they had to do a lot. Like the first like 15, 20 minutes are like a weird sort of comedy, and then it shifts into a sci-fi adventure, and then it gets real heavy and dramatic.
It's deadly
and
serious at the end.
real serious. Like very timely, especially like for right now, you know, like this was made what, a year or two ago. But it's definitely for like this current everything we're experiencing, and they sell each one of those elements and everything they go through beautifully. And I think a lot of the reason you get so invested in it is because they're not overreacting to anything. It's very subtle what they're doing, except for the, kind of the bigger moments, of course. And I think that should be singled out and praised.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a sci-fi and you're parents of kids, this is a good movie. I should say teens, preteens and above. Okay. And then finally, we're going to go into the film that is out in theaters, or not in theaters. I don't know why I want to say that, but this is on Disney Plus. It's Artemis Fowl. Are you familiar with the book series at all?
I know of the book series, and I know this was originally going to be released like 3 years ago, and they shelves it for a while.
Yes,
which is never a particularly good sign.
Yeah, and there's a reason. I remember, I remember it on Disney's calendar for a long time, and then it just disappeared. And there's a reason why. Artemis Fowl, I guess, is based on a popular book series, a YA book series. And, adaptations and remakes, Disney has not been doing them very well. And I always go back to this idea of what the problem is the films and the remakes don't capture why we loved that property in the first place. And that's the most essential thing you have to do in adaptations. Why do people like it? We'll put that in the movie. In this case, Artemis Fowl is a kid who's the son of Artemis Fowl, the senior, who is a art collector, an antiques collector, and apparently his family he comes from a long family of masterminds, so Artemis is this kid who's super smart, super brainy. He should have doctorates in at least 4 or 5 disciplines, and so dad gets kidnapped by a mysterious villain, and as a result of Artemis trying to find him, he discovers that his dad has been hiding the secrets of fairies for generations, and so the bad guy wants this fairy artifact called the Oculos, and he kidnaps dad in order for Artemis Jr. to go find it and deliver it and then free the dad. But he has to battle the fairy kingdom at the same time. So here's the thing. This movie should be a lot cooler than it is. It's got this kid hero. It's got, it's got thrills. It's a thriller. It's a spy thriller. It's got fairies and trolls, the whole fantasy thing, and it just fails. It just doesn't do well. And thinking about it, I feel like this should be a Disney Channel series instead of a full-length feature film. I don't know. Yeah, you saw the trailer. I know you haven't seen it yet.
I've seen the trailer. I haven't had a chance to see the movie yet. But I've seen the trailer, and I remember the trailer from, again, when it was originally going to be released. And I've read the first 2 books in the series. And the books are very much James Bond, but in the Hobbit world, right?
Yeah.
That's what they are. They're a mix of those 2 things, but they're a mix of those 2 things in a way that feels fresh and original. Based on everything I'm hearing about the movie, it feels like the movie is more pedestrian than the books were, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever even knew or remember, there was a Saturday morning cartoon show called James Bond Jr.
No, I have not.
Okay. I wish I were making this up. James Bond Jr. and he's a blonde American kid. I think
Yeah.
he's like his great nephew or something. I
Uh-huh.
forget. It was a horrible show. Even when I was like the age range for that show, it was a horrible show because everything about it felt just calculated to make you want to like it as opposed to organic to the story and the characters.
Yeah.
And my question to you is that the same thing here where it just feels manufactured as opposed to organically letting things happen?
Yeah, you know what it is the reason I say it should have been a series instead of a movie is Artemis Fowl is 90 minutes long. That's an average film, but this is a bigger movie, a bigger picture. And the problem is in 90 minutes, it has zero opportunities to develop their characters well. There's a teen sidekick. I forget her name. I want to say Julia or something like that. Juliet. And she's supposed to be really cool, but they barely use her in the film. The James Bond aspect of it. There's a part where Artemis finds his dad's underground lair, and it should be this really cool moment, but and there's a whole part where he gets all these gadgets and stuff. That's your James Bond gadget moment, and they just kind of go through it. And nothing really exciting happens. Even the world of the elves, it's just presented, but there's nothing really exciting because we've seen that already with like Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter. Which brings me to really the problem with this movie is we don't really connect well with Artemis Fowl. He starts off as a kid you don't like because he's essentially, it lays it out right in the beginning. He's so smart that he looks down in disdain with people who are not his equal, which means nobody. And we're supposed to emotionally invest ourselves in this kid right away. At least with Harry Potter, right from moment one, you were right there emotionally with him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
This sounds like it suffers from Thunderbird's disease.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if you remember that, like 2004.
I know. Well, no, I'm just saying. I think I cared about the Thunderbirds.
Sorry, what was that?
I think I cared about the Thunderbirds and whether they survived.
I love the show, The Thunderbirds. Love it. And in 2004, they made a live action movie, and it focuses on a high school kid who really wants to, he's part of the Tracy family, who are the people who pilot the Thunderbirds. And he wants to do that. And he looks down on anybody else who gets in his way of that.
Yeah.
And you don't care about him. He's not an interesting character because he's kind of just a jerk the entire movie. So your investment is nil for most of the movie.
Yeah.
And that's what this sounds like to me.
Yeah. The way that they try to get you emotionally invested is basically they tell you should be emotionally invested. For example, Artemis Fowl, his mom's what? She's dead. I mean, and they tell us that. So we have to feel for that. Well, and then there's his butler who doesn't like to be called butler. Well, we're told he's been with the family for a long time. And so therefore we're supposed to be, we're told about elves and fairies and things, but that presupposes you care and love and know anything about fairies and elves and trolls. It just, you can't do that. You have to pay it off. You have to make us feel for the characters, not tell us to feel for them. The other one of the things though is it's directed by Kenneth Branagh, which is crazy to me. Two, Josh Gad is in it, but I didn't know that was him until like halfway through the movie. My kid,
like a dwarf or something.
Yeah, he's a dwarf that's full size because of a curse.
Wait, what?
Yeah,
what?
He's been cursed with being a normal sized person instead of being a dwarf, and so that's part of the bargain is that he'd be able to get get back to the size of a dwarf.
Yeah.
I will say though, you know, he like speaks, him and Judi Dench speak with this really low gravelly accent. They talk like this throughout the whole film. It's annoying with Judi Dench. It almost makes Josh Gad though unidentifiable. I didn't know it was him until halfway through the film, and then I would say my kid kept calling him Hagrid's son. Is that it? Yeah, Hagrid's son. brother, Hagrid's brother. Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, there's a reason why Artemis Fowl was pulled off the shelf several years ago. The beauty of this pandemic is the fact that Artemis Fowl can be put on Disney Plus, and Disney doesn't have to spend the marketing budget to promote it. You know, and that was probably, I mean, quite frankly, this is the best thing that ever happened to Disney is this pandemic. Crazy enough. Okay, well, that's our 3 films. We definitely have 2 recommendations: Max Wenzel and the House of Secrets on VOD, and See You Yesterday on Netflix. Okay, well, with that, I'm Alan Ng. You can reach me at my pal Al. Also, visit the Film Thread website. Join us on Twitter and all the other stuff. Share, like, all that stuff. And Bobby, go ahead and how can we get a hold of you? Where can you be
Bobby
found?
LePire. What was that?
Where can you be found?
Right now with some books. I'm Bobby LePire on Facebook, and then I'm Film Guy 450 on everything else.
Okay, well, that's the Film Thread. That's a Film Thread review show. Have a great day.